Command Dara to Chamamba Malesi, my children in Lumbuya attend the mine. Answer Nadare.
In spite of numerous interventions by governments, non-governmental organizations, and other development partners to mitigate the negative impact of climate change on livelihoods of the vulnerable, chronic food insecurity continues to remain a conundrum for smallholder rural farmers, particularly women.
The dams are not able to retain water for longer periods than perhaps we used to have some time ago. And what happens is that women have to spend more time looking for water. You have to have water for livestock. You have to have water for other things like dry season, gardening. You have to have water for processing of other economic activities like shea butter.
In the last 3 years, Pronet North, with financial support from Oxfam Ghana, has been working in 4 farming communities in the Nadowli district of the Upper West region under a project enhancing livelihoods through climate change adaptation, also known as Elcap. The aim of the project is to empower smallholder rural farmers to adapt to the negative changes on their livelihoods resulting from climate change.
Elcap-1 combined advocacy and some amount of service delivery. In our system, when you advocate, you build the capacity of people to take action on their own. But we usually would have problems with the supply side of things. So you realize that even after you have built the people's capacity, you supported them to do a number of things, there's always a deficit. So Elcap-1 tried to provide some of the things that we expected the system to provide. But moving into Elcap-2, we realized that the system was quite solidified and didn't need much of our intervention. We only needed to provide the background support so that the community people would be able to take up things on their own.
Following the success of Elcap-1, which have taken many smallholder farmers, particularly women, out of extreme poverty in Penitobo and Zambaro, both in the Nadowli district, Elcap-2 was introduced in these 2 communities and extended to Zangwase and Tebane in the same district. This time round, beekeeping was added to the initial initiatives.
The rationale behind beekeeping is basically to expose households to the need to create alternative livelihoods. Just don't farm and eat and expect that every year you do the same thing and expect an improvement in your life. We all know that even the food that is harvested from the farm sometimes is not able to feed the family all year round. So do something else that can earn a family some amount of income, so that in the event of a shortage, the family can supplement. So that was the main rationale for the beekeeping.
Gozum sile ten yankuta asidugulu tente. Openg ongpene ata akwase kwan tingalidi tindi une tenyila galang half ache tuobunye onnapa tindi bin ayel kakare lo nyemine alade po.
We provided lots of training. About some 80 farmers were trained on how to keep bees appropriately and how to process the honey and how to market it. And out of that, some 20 people were directly supported with beekeeping kits, and they have been engaged in beekeeping. But of the others that we couldn't even support, following the training, they have managed to do some of the things on their own. Others are using improved local materials to keep bees, and they are making a living from it. Others, through our linkages, are able to access the same beekeeping kits from other organizations and institutions around them. Opportunities they previously didn't know about, but following the training and the exposure that we have offered them, they have been able to take some steps to do things on their own.
Beekeeping actually was something that the community called for, because they saw there's a man in Zambaro who is into beekeeping, and I think they've seen the prospects of beekeeping And they've also acknowledged the fact that it doesn't demand vigorous effort or any extraordinary tools to do. So they as part of the opportunity we gave them to come out with other activities that they think we should support them in, they came out that they wanted to do beekeeping.
In our system, when the man provides the basic grain, most of the time he's done with his duty. But the grain alone is not food. The woman then has to do all that it takes to get the grain milled, to get the soup ingredients to go with it, and to keep the family going. So we thought that if the woman has the opportunity of making an income, it will make the lives of the household members a little more easier than if it is the other way around. So we are not leaving men out, but the target is to support the most vulnerable to be able to overcome the challenges of life.
The dependence on forest resources by communities for fuel has resulted in serious environmental degradation over the years, thereby reducing soil fertility. In order to reverse this negative trend, women in Elcap communities were introduced to a new energy-saving stove aimed at reducing the amount of wood they use in cooking.
The typical Dagal woman is considered an industrious woman if she can pile up in several heaps of firewood behind her house. That's to show how industrious she is, especially during the dry season when everything is gone silent.
We sent a woman from Zambogo by name Fatinona to Nandom to learn how to build the stove. And on her return, she built one in her house, and that was what she was using to cook. And she was now more like the ambassador of the stove, who then told about how good the stove was, how convenient it is, how you can sit by it without inhaling the smoke that comes out of the fire, unlike the old stoves. And that was when the things started catching up with other women.
We, as a country, we've been kind of talking that, oh, let's conserve our forests, let's conserve our wood resources and use gas. But is gas accessible to the rural woman for her cooking? It is not. And so we thought that, okay, whilst gas is not accessible to her, she cannot stop cooking because she has to feed the family. So we're looking out for ways in which she can use the wood resources around her, but in a manner that saves the environment.
One key factor responsible for poor crop yield is the dependence on low-yielding seeds. With the collaboration of Seed Growers Association, the project has introduced to farmers new varieties of maize and beans which are drought-resistant and early maturing.
We all know that climate change is now with us and it's real. And what we now know they have to do is to adapt to the situation. That means the rainfall pattern now is highly erratic. Farmers can no longer depend on it for their production. And that also means that we need to do away with our local seeds and now adapt, improve the seeds. That's mostly the hybrid seeds and the other improved seeds.
Well, the main reason is it came from a study of our rainfall pattern. Realizing it's become more unpredictable and the rainy season is shorter as the years go by, we realized that it was important to modify the kind of crops that our people grow. So that if the farmer grows a sorghum that needs 6 months to mature, and yet we don't have 6 months of rain, it means that the farmer is preparing for doom. He's not going to harvest anything. And come to think of it, especially the women crops, there were granules that require 4 months or more to mature, beans that require 4 months or more to mature. And at the time that women would be farming, there's very little rain left. So the option was then to expose these farmers to new varieties that have come that are early maturing but also could withstand drought because of the unpredictability of the rain pattern, so that at least the farmers can harvest something even if the year goes bad.
Abeng na kama na bankotina atuwa na wara ka waran wagar ka ara che aman dantan tin nanda an tono akote katinu bura tiba zora da biyan ka san wana enna a kama na bakarba imakulu cherba zora da biyan amantan tin ar ka abengata temvo tiba zora ana da biyan anayan tinyanka sumbu benapo.
In the last 3 years, over 200 goats and pigs have been distributed to members of Elcap communities, mostly women, as a way of expanding their livelihood options. However, diseases and the lack of veterinary services have robbed some farmers of their animals. With the formation of community livestock volunteers in each of the Elcap communities, the situation is expected to improve.
But that's not doing Nyugulu, Adante, Anatia Peo, Adante, Avarvo, Adante, Percuru Wervo, Adante, letting Abama a new Abon Cassin, Caraban Nula, Adante Lena, Tenana Bang, Mane, Kwang, a Manetin, and Nenwar, Caraban.
If we look at the number of veterinary officers to the number of farmers to a particular one veterinary officer is so huge, and so it makes the veterinary officer inefficient in his or her ability to reach out to the farmer. So the farmer has a problem, and by the time the veterinary officer gets in, the problem is beyond control. The farmer has lost everything. So we thought that, okay, let somebody be nearby the community who can at least provide first aid and who would facilitate the early arrival of the veterinary officer to save the poor farmer of her animals.
Information on weather, farm inputs, and market for farm produce has been a serious challenge facing farmers. With the support of Elcap, however, farmers are now hooked up to the Isoko platform, which provides expert agricultural advice to farmers.
Isoko is a piece of technology. It is a platform that provides relevant information to farmers at the most appropriate time, either through a text message or a voice call. You are in your community, you probably do not know that it is time to start preparing your farmland. Then you get a text message from Isoko that says it is time to start preparing your farmland in preparation for the next season. Then it prompts you that, oh, okay, it's time to get this. They tell you it's going to rain tomorrow. So then you prepare yourself. If you have seeds to sow, then you know that day after tomorrow, if it actually rains, then you can get onto your farm. So it is providing very relevant information across the entire production season to farmers. When you should apply your fertilizer, when you should sow, when you should do your weeding, what you should look out for when diseases are affecting your farm. Very relevant information at the point when farmers need it. So that it serves, and there is opportunity for you to call back onto the system toll free to ask a question, to ask for expert advice as to if you have seen certain symptoms on your farm or you've seen certain things with your animals that you are not sure about. You can ask for expert advice, and the system would be able to is pre-inputted, would be able to offer you very basic advice on the symptoms you are describing, or they can link you up to an expert that would provide the needed support that you have been looking for.
Isoko manlele wuli like inambura akwa ho. Isoko manlele wuli zie enabanta akwa habu. Zie da andara song, zie da ambadara song. Ki panale ode chaka yenen mampiele. Yenen ka da dara song. Ka zie kangante dara toren. Da pianga cha kampale o consider charge ngan man era anagabe na banga tinyela mbonga be libini na banga ti yi ntona na banti yileben ka lord charge yibe ka mbonga men abun kan nan la nyatana to amanza Isoko man wulitin na
our communities are networked in a very interesting way. The people we have put on the platform are largely volunteers. They receive the text message or the voice call and the voice calls are in Dagari, so even the illiterate can listen and understand. The text messages come in English, so those who can read will read and spread the message. So the encouragement has been that when they send you a text message that your weather for Zamboro today is this, don't keep it to yourself. If it is information that it is going to rain today is going to be a rainy day, don't keep it to yourself. Let your other people know that, oh, Isoko is warning us it will be rain today. So if you have ceased to prepare, let's prepare them against the next day because it could rain.
Dry season gardening is perhaps one activity which has helped in raising income levels of farmers, particularly women in Elcap communities. 2 water pumping machines and fencing cables were provided to Penitoba and Zambara communities to reduce the burden of farmers to water their crops and also to prevent animals from destroying their crops.
The essence was then to encourage households to do a small dry season garden that can feed the family. But apart from just feeding the family, if you can produce enough, then you can also make an income from it.
Let an naika zian male, more pilpuana, chair nimbi maru de menewa yalten cateta zenle. Catimin il, Kaka humpra canaman sombon. Timin won abanoa, te pelante bazen, as yet in a mosso. Che baranwa yalpon ti dina kusio akwebe afian azie kabe unyi vialon tin lewdu kuye ache aborbonne te bora beano abor yovar abor salon asel kombie ntia abuna senga te manyene ti nuordibu.
There were problems with animals destroying their crops and not being able to access the water that was even in the dam. So that's how come the innovation came in, to try to support them with very basic fencing material. And it is not just the end, it is the first step to fencing the farming area around the dam. That you have been given this small fence and you now have to fortify it with live fencing around your garden area.
Through the various activities of Elcap, the understanding of the realities of climate change and its effects by farmers in Penitobo, Zambaro, Zangwase, and Tibani have grown over the last 3 years, and they are now able to adapt to the negative impacts of climate change, thereby enhancing their livelihoods. But this did not come easily.
Of course, financing didn't allow us to cover all communities. The funding package was quite small, and so we thought that it wasn't good to spread out into many communities only to do very little. So let's concentrate just on 4 communities and make the impact.
The biggest challenge we have is with the communities adapting to new technologies, because they feel that this is what we have been doing for over years, and why the sudden change. And it took really a tough time trying to explain to them that, well, our land is not still the same as it was in the past years.
Everybody thought we're coming to bring them food and bring them fertilizer and bring them seeds. But when they saw it wasn't about bring this and bring that and bring that, initially some of them were reluctant. But knowing change takes a long time to happen, we followed them gradually. And now they themselves are beginning to take the actions. So they are beginning to see beyond the challenges of today and taking actions for the future.
Akwan yala ferten pampana ka hon borabo ntiara ka samba wa emaboni amanku ponna animbizie ka fense men yala annan ferte ane hunan na batwa mal ka bunni waye diuba chekote wana ka bor ka oba azai na ferbo afrate.
Notwithstanding these challenges, there are strong evidence that points to increase in income levels and improved food security in Elcap communities.
Pampana dagbile bunga bango kumane kuna mama kabuhu yirebe mama nyabiela ade da ziare ada kamana awa ere amonsau adi kena nyabiela ti insusu ana nyabiela ade manen insora
kana nang Mbihi na banyile mine kandi bing akara ni mbihi. Kaba kanga moko hakan kukudi. Chekan tuang amin nanda amine agata kuwa. Amin na nyekobo ade wasomemmenga.
Nabonga pour Pronet ane Oxfam ane Elcap ane banaza nan sonte kabon watanga la filu kwena yi te yela te nan chikwenza anwa bare kaba wulbu na memba na wa awayo kurate abonta zinga za awulotina ba venye men kan salon le bete inga katunun garaka na e tontonza taman la nanata agaratuna ba ven ka nuri on le ba atinga atinga maro zo blini ya tare bale chira atinga.
Another important the achievement under the Elcap project is the Isoko platform, where for now about 450 farmers have been linked to the platform, where they receive weather forecasts, agri tips, markets information. One might ask at the local level whether some of the farmers can read the text messages. Yes, the messages come in form of text messages. They also come in the form of voice messages. But the Elcap team have set committees in the community who are also responsible for disseminating important messages that are sent through text message to the team so that they can spread it to the whole community.
We've seen great improvements in family incomes. We've seen great improvements in food to households. And community members will testify to you that we have not been hungry this year. And all of that are benefits that the people are driving from Elcap. That in the past, June, July, and parts of August used to be a very terrible month for women and children. Struggle to really get to eat. But now they are able to increase their harvest. They know how to store the food. If they have to sell, they know where to sell to make the best of incomes. In the dry season, they are still producing and supplementing, what they eat. So what we have seen generally is improved income, improved food availability, improved environmental, the climatic conditions of the area. We are beginning to see changes. Trees that used to be slashed down every year are now beginning to survive for 3 years now. So that tells you that if it continues, those shrubs are going to grow into trees and protect our environment a lot better. So for me, Elcap has made its mark by reducing the hunger gap and saving our environment.
With the exit of the project, what should be done to ensure that the achievements of Elcap are not only sustained, but are also promoted?
Our sustainability mechanism was built into the project right from beginning, that let the community people themselves own the process and drive the process, so that even when you are not there, they know how to do it and they can go ahead to do it. That is why we would not go and fence the area for you. You need fencing, you don't have the ability to get the fencing. We give you the little step to start a fencing, and you get a live fencing to fence it up. So that even when your live fencing is drying up, you know where to get your live fencing to fix. So that when the chain link is even off, your live fencing stays to be able to keep your animals. You have your dam. You know how to rehabilitate your dam on gradual basis so that it doesn't get silted. All of this is capacity that has been pushed down onto the people, so that even when Pronet and Oxfam are gone, the community people can continue to drive the process. So the community people largely own the process. They do everything. We just provide technical backstopping from behind the scenes.
In terms of the livestock, for instance, we have a committee in place who are responsible for monitoring these animals that we have and making sure that the relay system still goes on even at the time that we have exited.
The core of the duty is the role of the assembly, UFA, and the communities themselves. We as civil society are only trying to bring the issue to the limelight so that the assemblies and MOFA can pick it up and make it better and even roll it up to other communities.
Perhaps the best response to the effects of climate change is that policymakers must create an enabling environment to support adaptation by increasing access to climate information financial credit, and technical services. Effort should be made to reach out to smallholder farmers with limited resources to confront climate change.